Better Daily, where we work hard in our minds, bodies, and our spirits to become 1% better every single day. Download the app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live to catch the video version of these podcasts. Here's your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What is up, Betterment family? Happy Thursday. This is Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live, and on Thursday, it's Word Thursday, and I share with you some meditations on a word that I hope will help you in your 1% better journey. And today's word is endurance. Endurance is such an interesting word. It goes really far back in the etymology of the word. You might think of the definition of endurance as being endurable, having the ability to last in difficult situations. That's a definition of endurance. Good morning, KT. But endurance, its etymology actually goes all the way back from the Latin into the Greek. It's a steadfastness or a quality of hardness. So when I was planting a garden, we do seedlings, right? Because if you just plant the seeds in the harsh exterior of the world, it could get a little cold in the spring, or maybe there's not enough rainfall or something along those lines. And so it's hard to tend the seeds planted outdoors. It's helpful to tend them in a sheltered space. And so you plant your seedlings in these little, I don't know, what do you call them? Cedars? There's got to be a special name for them. Anyway, so you plant your seeds in these cedars and you put them in a window, and so they have all the water they need and they have all the sunlight they need, and it's moderately warm in the house, and conditions are perfect for germination and growth, and so the seedlings grow. Well, when I was a novice gardener, one of the things that I learned very quickly was that if you take those seeds from their perfect environment where everything's fine and kosher and good and they've germinated, right? If you take them from there and you put them outside and you plant them into the harsher elements of nature, even if conditions are quote unquote perfect, the wind and the change in temperature and the dryness and all those things, they don't grow, they die. And I learned this the hard way. I had an entire season where I just planted these seeds and the seedlings all kicked the bucket and they didn't make it past, a week of being outside. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong, man? So more wise gardeners than I advised me that I needed to weather my plants. And what that means is you have to take them from their ideal habitat that you've created for germination. You have to take those seeds from the window on the inside, and you have to let them sit outside for a few days. You have to let them deal with being outside in small spurts. Morning, Robin. Good to see you. I'm a trainer by trade. You had to train the plant to be outside because being outside is a stressful thing for the plant to do. And what's really interesting is when you weather a plant, when you stick these seedlings outside and they're exposed to some wind and they're exposed to the changing temperature and they're exposed, what happens is their little stalk gets thicker. It gets harder. It's harder to move the plant because what the plant has done is responded to the harsher conditions, and now it's thick and strong in the stem. And after a few days of that, what you can do is you can plant them in your outdoor area and they don't die on you. And what does this have to do with my enlightening message for this week in Better Daily? Endurance is an important quality that only seems to come about through the difficulty that brings about that hardness, that steadfastness, that endurability. You can't breed endurance into a plant inside. It has to be tested, right? It's all the same seeds. There's nothing different about the seeds that were planted. There's nothing different about the plant that was planted itself. It was just the conditions, the exposure to difficulty that created endurance, and that endurance allows for the plant to bear fruit. It allows it to reach maturity and bear fruit. And what's crazy is our spirits, our minds, and our bodies operate very similarly. I used to work out at an old kickboxing gym across the street from my house, and they were some cool people, and the instructor was a Christian man, and he used this as a ministry. And he would joke that the reason that people were so ready to follow Jesus at the end of their sessions is because we beat the hell out of them. There's the old joke, right? How do you make holy water? You boil the hell out of it. That's how you make holy water. And this is, I know it's laughable, but at the same time, this is really important. Growing endurance is probably one of the most important things that a person can do. Okay, because we're going to be around here for a long time, and we're going to deal with difficult things. What is the number one thing that's going to help us deal with difficult things? You could argue about this, but I think one of the most important things is personal endurance. I think that personal endurance is required to deal with the vicissitudes of life, which is just a fancy way of saying stuff's going to happen. It just is. And whether or not that crushes you and kills you, like my plants taken from their perfect environment and thrust into the outdoors, right? Whether or not you can grow through that and bear fruit has a lot to do with endurance, the thickness of your stem, so to speak, how well you can stand up to the elements. Katie says yoga helps her so much with that, also running. And I resonate with that so much because something about exercise allows me, not every time, but sometimes. I'd say I get there maybe once a month. I have a hill behind my house that I deal with regularly, and I run this, in this stupid hill, man. It's brutal. It's a very steep incline. It's a long way. It's probably about a half-mile long. And I say it's a stupid hill, but I keep coming back to it. And why do I keep coming back to it? It's because there's a part of me that needs me to revisit that difficulty, to revisit the place where I could give up. Everything in me wants to stop. But there's something that supersedes that. There's a spirit that says, no, you won't stop. No, you can't stop. You're going to see this thing through. And I think it was Kierkegaard who said, that which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And I want to say he was echoed by Nietzsche. But that's the idea, right? Or Rudyard Kipling says in his poem, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve their turn long after they're gone, and so hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. That's endurance. That's the thing, the spirit of being able to keep on keeping on. Put one foot in front of the other, to not stop, or like Dory in Finding Nemo, just keep swimming, don't stop swimming. And she's fun about that. But Janet says, I want to focus on where I want to be instead of the problems in front of me, and that helps me to head in the right direction. Now, the Bible has something to say about this, and actually it has a lot of some things to say about this. If you look up the Greek word for endurance, and you look at how many times in the New Testament the word endurance is used, it's crazy. And it's translated a few different ways. When you're reading a verse, it might say perseverance, it might say steadfastness, it might even say patience, which is a really interesting transliteration of the word endurance. I tend to think of endurance as steadfastness in action. It's being in motion and deciding not to stop that motion. Maybe you're working hard at something at work that's very difficult, but you persist, right? Or maybe you're learning something difficult, and that frustrating feeling of knowing you're inadequate right now, and you don't know everything you should know, and you're not as skilled as you'd like to be, but that really sucky noob phase that we've talked about before in here, you're going to see that through, and it makes you want to cry. I don't know what it is about developing endurance or exercising endurance that makes you want to cry, but it's there. It makes you want to cry. It's like, I want to give up. It hurts. I don't want to do this. I hate being bad at things, right? Whatever that is. That's endurance. It's steadfastness in action. But then there's the idea of patience, because that's the transliteration of this in Greek. And patience is steadfastness in waiting. Again, that Rudyard Kipling poem, he says, if you can wait but not be tired of waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies. There's an element of patience there. I have friends who will say something like, can you pray for patience for me for XYZ situation? Because they're in a season of waiting. They have to wait. And then I always like to ask, are you sure you want me to pray for patience for you? Are you sure that's what you want to pray for? Because there's only one way to get patience, and that's what the verse in Romans 5 is about. He says, therefore we rejoice in our sufferings, because suffering breeds endurance, patience, steadfastness, right? Which breeds character, which then breeds hope. That's what the verse says. So we rejoice evermore in our sufferings, because when we suffer, it breeds endurance. Endurance breeds character, and character breeds hope. And so my encouragement to you today is You're going to go through hard things. That's all there is to it. But I say this a lot, and I mean it. You're made of sterner stuff than you know. And you would never know what kind of stern stuff you're made of if you didn't go through the hard thing. When it drills down into your spirit and your soul, when it's so hard that you want to cry, you know you've gotten there. You know you've gotten to the place where you get to find out what endurance that you're made of. And my challenge to you is to revisit that regularly. Remind yourself what kind of endurance is inside of you. Remind yourself of what you've been through and the spirit that hasn't let you give up yet. Because that's still in you, and that's a good thing. And if you haven't found that in yourself yet, I encourage you to go explore it. Find a big hill to climb up, or a really difficult yoga class to get into, or try to learn a new skill. I've made grown men cry trying to teach them how to do a handstand, right? Because you're all hunky-dory and everything's fine until you realize after 2 whole minutes that there's something very small, very simple, that should be easy, that just breaks you. And there's a part of you that has to decide, am I going to just be broken? Or am I going to keep moving forward anyway? And that is endurance. You're made of sterner stuff than you know. And I hope you'll give yourself the opportunity to notice that, remember it, and grow it. Guys, this has been Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Thank you for joining me for Word Thursday with the word endurance. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. We're going to dive into Flex Friday, and that will be our last live until Christmas. I'm going to take a week off with my family and then rejoin you just before the new year, and I'm really excited about that. Until Friday, it's just 1%. You got this.
Thank you for joining us for 1% Better today. Don't forget to subscribe for the podcast. Leave us a raving review to tell others how Better Daily has helped you in your journey. If you want more Better Daily, download our app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live. Use code POD to get 25% off your subscription. That's POD, all caps, to save 25% on your subscription. We all have a cross to carry. It's lighter when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.live today.